Sandra, how come SBS Bank's rates are so good?
Because they're owned by their customers, not greedy shareholders, so we get a better deal.
Really? Always wanted to own a bank.
In 1956, a handful of Invercargill Cycling Club members organised a bike race in the grand European tradition. Multi-day racing, taking in everything that made bike riding in Southland great. That race has been through many evolutions, but 6 decades later, it continues. In 2016, the SBS Bank Tour of Southland celebrates its diamond anniversary as 20 teams of riders prepare to take on the roads, hills and weather of Southland, battling it out over 7 stages and 850 kilometres for the honour of being the 60th anniversary champions. This is the 2016 SBS Bank Tour of Southland. The traditional visit to Te Anau on this year's SBS Bank Tour occurred early in the week, with the peloton battling a headwind for much of the day. A 9-strong break broke clear in the first hour of racing, and had built a lead of more than 2.5 minutes in the first 50 kilometres. They had pushed that out to 3 minutes as they took the famed Blackmount hill climb in their stride, and then set about trying to stay clear as the peloton looked to reel them in before the lakefront finish in Te Anau. But stay away they did, with Rotorua's Sam Phipps earning the biggest win of his career, claiming the stage, and 2015 World Team Pursuit track champion Alex Frame being rewarded for a powerful day in the break with the Tour lead, as all eyes now turn to Coronet Peak and the Queen stage of the 2016 Tour.
We race obviously in Texas year-round from February through to September, and it's hot as hell, as they say in Texas, and so we just thought we'd try something different. Stage race is something new to us because we do a lot of crit racing and single-day stage races, so yeah, thought we'd try our hand at the Tour of Southland.
Yeah, it's quite good. I mean, it's really long compared to doing the younger junior tour. Obviously a long week, long stages, testing conditions as well, which makes it a very hard and challenging race.
Yeah, it's been good. You know, I had a good day on the first day making that front break, and yesterday sort of managed to stay largely out of trouble. So yeah, looking forward to today.
We mean business, so it's good. It's good. Yeah, I got a lot of confidence in the guys if we need them to ride the front all day.
Tactically, you want to be on the front or very close to the front. Give Aiden the best chance of staying with the leading group and the leading riders.
Yeah, the thing about the Coronet Peak, it's like could have a bad day, could have a good day. It's the unknown, just have to play it by every K and see how it goes, but yeah, motivated for it.
One of our riders, Cameron Hoffman, he's from Utah, so he spends a lot of time in the mountains. We've been riding for him. He's chasing the silver jersey, he's a minute down. So we think we can do something today with the climb. If he's towards the front and in good position, we hopefully can walk away with the silver jersey today.
Yeah! Check it, baby.
Well, Rion Nolan certainly had all the energy before the stage start today on the way to Queenstown. Let's see how much energy Rion's got for the actual stage proper, Gillian, but he's doing very, very well. He will be very, very pleased with how he's getting on so far.
Yeah, fantastic ride yesterday, but you're right, it's going to be an energy-sapping stage this year today as we look to the graphic, making their way towards a Coronet Peak. Of course, New Zealand's first commercial ski field. It's a big day for these boys here on the roads of Southland.
Big group too, which is always pleasing at this stage of the tour. Safety in numbers. Gavin Mason here alongside Fraser Hewitt, the local boy, racing in Placemakers. He'll be Hayden Ralston's right-hand man today. It's going to be really interesting to see what the GC contenders do in today's stage early on, because it is such a long way. You go early, you commit, you stay in the group, you let someone go who shouldn't be away. This is going to be a really crucial point in this race.
As you can see there, it still is a large peloton starting today's stage. They've only lost something like 4 riders due to a sickness over the last few days for them. So we have 116 starters here as they make their way towards the Jollies Hill Climb for the day. There's our pink jersey, the under 23-year-old, of course the man that took out the stage into Lumsden a few days ago.
You will notice that there's a bigger group starting to emerge in the early parts of these stages now. We're on day 3. There's some fatigue setting in. These groups are probably getting away a wee bit easier than they were in the last preceding days that we've seen. But a big group like this, I don't know, Julian, it may just not stick. There's a big climb coming up, of course, for the KOM, and you can see a lot of looking around going on in the front group, but there's still a lot of racing yet.
Here we have the young Olympian, Regan Goff, of course, the man that was in yellow jersey on the day 1 there after the team time trial. Just looking over his shoulder, he's not too sure here. They may actually allow him to get away a bit. The guy's a bit hesitant. They're very aware of the type of lumpy terrain they're going to have to contest here, as we see some gaps starting to appear on the first of the hill climbs of the day.
It's a great shot back. It's a beautiful part of the country down this way. It's very, very scenic on the way through to Queenstown. This is the most picturesque part of the country in my opinion. But these bike riders won't be worrying about picturesque scenery. They're worrying about their legs, their energy expenditure, how much they're going to have to use to get to the base of Coronet, and what kind of form they're going to come out of Coronet in, because we're really only halfway here.
Yes, this is very early on in the piece here, and there's a very hesitant sort of a ride going on with this second group. As you can see, a few of the riders giving it a little bit of a nudge. They're just not too sure if this is the time to go or not. Being very aware of what's up ahead for the day, and of course what's in the back of their minds for tomorrow, going down to Bluff as well for some of these riders. They know it's going to be some heavy legs by the end of today.
And conditions, of course, we talk about the conditions all the time with the SBS Bank Tour, but the conditions have been really, really quite out the box. These riders are waiting and waiting and waiting for a lot more wind and a lot more rain and those sorts of conditions we all hear about historically. And who knows, look, it could happen in the next couple of days, but at the moment, you've got to say you could not get better conditions for bike racing.
No, they're absolutely loving that part of it, that's for sure. As we saw the Mike Greer Holmes rider there, Tim Rush, taking the first of the points today here for the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. It's classified as a Cat 2 stage here, or hill climb I should say. As we mentioned yesterday in yesterday's footage, they're classified at varying lengths and heights, determines the sort of points that are available for these riders. So after an effort on the King of the Mountains, these 4 now are starting to establish a bit of a break on the remainder of the field. With Nick Miller there in the orange colours, the Barry Stewart builders, we've seen them out there every day. 2 men from the same team. Now this will be interesting, Doug, with Regan Goff and Tim Rush, joined by Brendan Cole of the Tonelli team.
Yeah, some very, very good organisation going on there. It may have been by design, it may have been by chance. That's how it often works in these breakaway situations. These guys have got a long way ahead. You can see them already refuelling. This will just be constant all the way through this stage. The kind of energy these guys use and the kind of food and drink that they consume is just huge. It would make your average sports person wince. But there's plenty of racing left yet, and these guys are just coming up through to the picturesque Lake Wakatipu area.
The 1960s was the era that multi-day races really took off in New Zealand. There were 3 major tours: Southland, Manawatu and the Dulux Auckland to Wellington. Cycling was still very much an amateur individual race, with no official teams and no prize money. The 1960 Tour of Southland was held right off the back of the National Road Champs in Invercargill and saw the strongest field of riders yet assembled. The eventual winner was Gary Ulmer, father of future cycling champion Sarah. By the 1960s, the Tour of Southland was attracting international riders. To much local consternation, the 1964 Tour was won by an Australian, Malcolm Powell. It would be 50 years before they would let it happen again, Mitchell Lovelock Fay winning in 2014. The mid-1960s were dominated by Tino Tabak. Tino was 19 when he won his first tour and 65, the youngest man ever to win the Tour of Southland. He went on to win back-to-back tours in 66 and 67 before heading to Europe to turn professional. It was in the 1960s that sponsorship came to the fore and the Tour of Southland became the Rothmans Tour, which it would remain for 25 years. Smoking, eh? Very sporty.
And here we see our lead 4 riders making their way around Lake Wakatipu. Fantastic conditions for these 4 guys. They've got a time gap now of around 4:24 as they make their way at the start of the Devil Staircase.
Yeah, an advantage such as that really can evaporate pretty quickly. It sounds a long, long way on the road, but the group chasing has probably not really organised themselves fully yet, and they'll be giving these guys a bit of a buffer before they start really getting stuck in earnest as they get around the lake a bit further on.
Well, certainly what we're seeing here is a repeat of what has been on the last few years of the tour, where a small group such as this gets away on the Devil Staircase, and they've opened gaps of up to 5 minutes in the past.
And as we've seen so often in this year's SBS Bank Tour, the vantage windows and doors boys are at the front. These guys may have been rowers and the best rowers in the world, but Julian, they are seriously dragging themselves into the world of bike racing in a very, very fast fashion. It's such an incredible thing to see, and they'll be stoked with the way they're going.
Grew up watching Hamish rowing, and then I saw him come down here and compete in the Tour of Southland 7 years ago. Yeah, I guess after the Olympics it was a perfect opportunity to come down here, sort of a little bit of time off after the rowing season finished, and yeah, come down here and give it a nudge.
In terms of the 4 rowers we've got on the team, it was more or less the strongest 4 rowing cyclists, and then we've been able to supplement that really well with Mike and Josh Hegarty, who's a young guy from Invercargill. So in terms of being a family affair, yeah, my brother is one of the stronger cycling rowers, and he's always, there's been a number of them that have been interested in coming down and having a go, because none of them have ever ridden a tour before. I've only ridden one.
So it's on the job training, so but they're doing well, they're picking it up real quick. Just their attitude towards what they're doing makes it pretty easy to teach them. They're willing to learn, and and they've all got the horsepower to kind of back up that.
In terms of the cardiovascular output required, we've developed that over a number of years, and there's a few specific things that have taken some time, but I feel as though I've given it a bit of prep and enough to transfer hopefully some of my potential in rowing over into cycling, and we'll just see how it goes.
Both Hamish and Michael are really well positioned on GC, I mean, Michael's a renowned hill climber and Hamish capable of some phenomenal things, so I think if the team can help get them to the bottom of the hill in a good position, then yeah, I don't know, the sky might be the limit, literally and physically by the end of the day.
Yeah, I'd just like to get to the bottom sort of with everyone else, and then go mano a mano, I guess. That's more what I'm interested in. That's similar to what I've been doing in rowing for 10 years. And if I can get to the bottom in good shape and feel as though I pushed up and emptied the tank and did what I could do, then the result will be what it will be.
I was second up there a couple of years ago, so it'd be nice to go one better.
They certainly make some fantastic points, these boys here, the rowers, and that's showing us why they deserve to be at the forefront of this year's race. They've got the work ethic, Doug. They know how to put themselves into the hurt box.
And these guys are going to start feeling it too, because not only is the Coronet Peak climb 14 kilometres of pain, there is a lot of lumps and bumps on the way to the base of Coronet, which these guys are going to start experiencing. We're coming through Jack's Point here, and this is where it starts to get hard this stage.
The ever-changing scenery as you approach Queenstown with the new bridge that's under construction here at the moment. No doubt in 12 months' time we're going to be travelling across it, but today these riders having to contest with the roadworks as we look back, and it's the Cadence Cyclery team, a team based out of Texas here, made up of Americans and one rider this year, Doug, from South Africa.
It's great to see international bike riders coming all the way to Southland to race the best race in the country, the SBS Bank Tour, and they've come with an attitude. This is the front group again, coming up that false flat to Frankton. It can be quite tough. The schools are out, that'll buoy them along, but these guys are in the battle. They are really, really going to have to dig deep here if they want to stay away.
Some fantastic shots once again in the Wakatipu Basin here as our quartet continue to stay unified. They've had a decent gap all day long, so they must be starting to seriously consider the fact that they could potentially take out the stage. However, a stage victory is all they can really hope for today, because these men, like many in this year's tour, have already lost significant time over the last couple of days. The real race is exactly where we're looking now, the main peloton, where some of the big hitters are awaiting the big climb of the day.
You can see the front of the group is starting to stretch out. We're starting to get a wee bit more speed and a wee bit more urgency coming. Coronet Peak will be to the right of these riders. You can see this big mountain range in the background. And the Calder Stewart team, they're setting the pace. They're obviously getting in front and setting their climbers up for what is now the start of the Coronet Peak climb proper.
A good half hour of racing for these riders now, over 8 kilometres of climbing. The first couple of K, of course, ramps right up to close enough to 10% for these riders here. This is going to hurt the legs after what has already been a long and arduous day.
The climb is such a steep climb. And you can see now a lot of these riders are jockeying for position. It's going to be absolutely crucial for the overall lead of this race that you're in the right place at the right time at the base of this climb, because it is going to blow to bits. You can see the peloton in the background is just split right up all the way back as far as you can see. So there's some serious pace being put on early on here by the Mike Greer's rider. I think that's Ben Johnson. From the Mike Greer team. He is seriously softening up this field. Of course, Michael Vink, you can see there back in about 4th or 5th position. This is a common tactic on a climb such as this. Get a teammate, soften everyone up, blow all their legs apart, and then let the team leader take over. But what a sterling job he's doing.
So as we look to the chasing peloton here, Liam Aitchison up towards the front. They're just on your left-hand side in the dark colours. And Hamish Bond, though, has been placed on the front with the small figure of Michael Torkler. So Bond being the motorbike. And look at the grimaces on the faces, Doug. These boys are putting some serious pressure on this field.
Hamish Bond, this just suits his style of racing. He's got such a big tank, as we've heard, and he's setting such a lovely rhythm here, trying to stop these attacks from going away. But Michael Torkler's teammate is very relaxed. He's not panicking at this stage.
The peloton is falling apart on the climb here as we see the placemakers man, the 4-time champion, Hayden Ralston, under a lot of pressure here. He is starting to crack, and this could be a serious destruction of his potential yellow jersey hopes.
He'll be in damage limitation mode here. You can see once again it's just splintering up. Taylor Gunman from the Kia Motors Ascot Park team, he is back off that front group as well, when you can see him trying to dig for a rhythm and trying to get into a nice gear, but it's just disintegrating up this climb. And at the front of all this peloton chasing is Hamish Bond. This is a dramatic, very dramatic part of this stage, and Hamish Bond is single-handedly destroying the whole field in this year's SBS Bank Tour Southland.
This is incredible to witness here. These elite athletes now distancing some time into the big GC contenders. But of course their other #1 mission now is to try and tempo their way towards the front, where we still have 3 men trying to secure the stage victory.
You can see Tim Rush from the Mike Greer homes. He is seriously peddling some squares now. He's got a wee way to go. This is quite a steep portion on the climb before the skippers look out, and then from there it flattens off. He'll be looking forward to a wee bit of a breather, because this is starting to get on top of him.
He's approaching 3 kilometres to go, where it continues to ramp up to that 10% in the last few K. Regan Goff here, his teammate, trying to hold on to ensure that they get the 1-2 for the day. It would be an outstanding effort by the Mike Greer team here today as they try and secure this Adair Craik sponsored stage here, the Queen stage of this year's tour. But meanwhile, Torkler continues to put the pressure on and is opening a gap now on Michael Vink.
This is a very, very pivotal point in this stage. If Michael Torkler can apply enough pressure to Michael Vink and gap him, he's got Hamish Bond on as well, and even he's struggling, and he looked on top of it about 1 kilometre ago. Back at the front of the race, it's Tim Rush again, and this is a do-or-die battle. Tim Rush is really, really laying it all out on the line here. He really wants to win this stage. It was obvious right from the start of it when he got away in that break, but the energy he's used so far, Julian, I think may be compounding on this poor man.
in the back of his mind is not only the Queen's Stage win here today, but also to try and pick up the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. He picked up 3 of them earlier today as we look to Torkler, who's picked up the young Australian Brendan Cole, who was away from the get-go in that quartet.
You've got a feel for these guys away in this breakaway being picked up. It's such a long, long day to be away on their own whilst the peloton is all sat and chased. We always knew this was going to happen. It was always going to be a battle of wits to see who was at the bottom of the Coronet Peak climb. But it is now down to these 2 men, the Vantage Windows and Doors squad, Michael Torkler, Hamish Bond. This is a revelation. I just don't believe in the SBS Tour, but in New Zealand sport. For a guy like Hamish Bond to be doing what he's doing, just incredible.
And let's not forget, Doug, those 2 men are 121 and 127 down on the general classification. So they are seriously trying to put some time into it and get themselves the yellow jersey. But Tim Rush is the one man now left on the road, the sole recipient of the 4 that got away this morning, who is trying to take out this Queen Stage.
Hats off to Tim Rush. This man will be in a world that we cannot imagine, and he has only got about another 2 hairpin climbs to go before he is going to be able to release that pain and say, I've done it. But the 2 chasers are still catching up. You can see there's the van in front following the lead man, Tim Rush, and there is not that far to go. They've got him in their sights. That is a very psychologically powerful thing for these 2 guys chasing.
Torkler picking up Goff here, who's trying desperately to hold on to the potential of getting himself in the top 3 for the stage, as Rush is rolling all over the bike now. You can see the technique is completely different to that of the man chasing just behind there in the black and white colours of Michael Torkler.
Gosh, I think Tim Rush, I don't think he's going to stay away. Michael Torkler and Hamish Bond have just been so strong coming up this climb, and you can see Torkler is now away on his own. He has left Hamish Bond behind him further back down the climb, and Tim Rush is just going to get caught before the finish.
This is an outstanding ride by Torkler. Let's not forget, this is a man who had a serious accident back in 2012. He was on his deathbed. He has made a big comeback in cycling here, and this is outstanding to witness. From the start of the hill to the top here, this guy has powered into it, and he's left everyone in his wake.
It has always been the stage that defines the SBS Bank Tour, the Coronet Peak stage. We know there's a lot of racing left, but this battle up this climb defines and has a huge bearing on the overall lead of the race. Michael Torkler is going to ride himself into the yellow jersey here. You can see Tim Rush, he's just not given up. That kid is a battler. Man, he has put in a big effort. He's still in second place on the stage. You can see the van following, but it is all Michael Torkler at the moment. And by crikey, he is in a very, very relaxed position and is looking well within himself going up this climb.
He is in a very strong position indeed here, knowing full well that he could be adorning that yellow jersey here as he takes out the Adair Craig stage, 140 kilometres here up into Queenstown, the Queen stage of this year's tour. Michael Torkler shows them how it's done, and Tim Rush, he secures the 2nd spot after being away all day long. And here comes the Olympian and world rowing champion Hamish Bond securing 3rd spot. 2 men from the same team. What an outstanding effort by these elite athletes today.
What an exciting stage. Hamish Bond, Michael Torkler, they've left everything out on the road here today, and they've ridden themselves into the lead of this year's SBS Bank Tour of Southland.
And if you ever want to make a comparison, 26 minutes and 10 seconds is what it took Torkler from base to top today. So Michael Torkler goes into the SBS yellow jersey here, but still a very open race with 2 minutes covering the top 6 riders in this year's tour. Nick Kirkazoo had a relaxing day on the bike with 30 points over 15 from Regan Goff in the Harcourt Sprint Ace. While Tim Rush secured a bag full of points today with 26 to go into the Jesco Hydraulics King of the Mountains. The pink jersey shifts onto Australian Moray with a 30-second advantage over Christensen. While in the Stonewood Homes silver jersey, former King of the Mountains champion a few years back now, Anthony Chapman, moves into the silver jersey. While Regan Goff, after a big effort from the start of the day through to the finish, secures the Southland Times Most Combative. Kia Motors Ascot Park Hotel hold on to the Wednesday Cycles team classification by only 21 seconds now over PowerNet.
that was about 200% of just full gas. It really hurt. It was just, there was a few swear words said to myself, and tried to dig as deep as I could and had nothing left. He was going up there pretty hard, and the legs didn't quite have as much gas as he did. So respect to him, he was flying. So no, unfortunately not.
You know, it was down to about 4 minutes at the bottom of the climb, and then Hamish really just stepped on the gas that first half and just pulled truckloads out of them. And you know, once you've got those guys in sight, just about anything's doable. So.
Is there any truth to the rumour that Hamish went up the hill a few days ago with Strava on and did the 5th fastest time ever?
It might be true. It's possible. And I may have told him not to post it on Strava. Well, that's also possibly true.
I came here on Thursday and I rode up the mountain, and I knew I could get up it pretty quick. Our whole goal for the Vantage team coming down here was feeling as though we had an impact on the race and weren't just participating, and we've well exceeded that now. That was a brilliant result for us.
Follow the action from this historic race all week with live race updates, full results and pictures at www.tourofsouthland.com.